Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Passive Aggressive Income. We are your hosts, Lexi and Mims, and we are continuing talking about writing. Well, Mims is talking about writing, and I am soaking it all up and taking it in. And I think this one's going to be really helpful, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Mims.
As Lexi called this is the writing trilogy. So that's what we're going to coin this as. This is the third episode on querying your submission. If you are interested in that, if that's what you have going on in your life, or maybe you're just interested. I don't know. I don't know your life, but I hope that you are listening. And I hope that this is piquing your interest. So, on this episode, I will continue on how to get yourself published if you are on that journey or if you're just interested. Today's episode will cover how to improve your writing, and not just in your manuscripts, but maybe in your professional emails or content creation like podcast episodes,
Yeah.
or maybe just everyday writing. Maybe you have a pen pal. I don't know. Maybe you want to be a really excellent writer and impress the European friend you have, well, this episode's for you.
I feel like I need to go out and find myself a pen pal.
Yeah, right? So, we're going to cover crutch words right away. So, crutch words are overused and filler words. Here are some examples that I know I am just always using when I talk, when I write, and I have had to really steer clear from these. So, number one, that. Two is had. Three is just. I'm a big juster.
I am
I
too
have
in my
to,
regular life.
yeah. And you probably know that. So I am a big sewer as well. And then also starting sentences with and, so, and then are considered weak sentences. You should really never start a sentence with and I went to the mall. It just, don't do that. Just
Yeah,
say I went to the mall,
not
because
gonna impress anyone.
no, it's not good writing. Using a passive voice. So let's go on to this other section. So, using your passive voice in your manuscript is also considered bad practice. There are two different types of voices, passive and active. And then there are many different types of tenses. You might recognize present tense or future simple. I'm not going to bore you with the different types of tenses because therethere's, I think, like 15. So, you can,
What?
yeah,
I
you
thought
can
there was
Google
like
that on your
three.
own. We'll be here all night. So here are the differences in voices, and I'll have Lexi guess on which voice I'm using for each example.
Oh, it's a
So
quiz. Okay.
I'm quizzing you. Lexi, is this passive or active sentence? I am baking a cake.
I am baking a cake. I feel like that's active.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. So this next one, is it passive or active? The cake is being baked by me.
I think that one's passive.
You got it.
All
Yay. 10
right.
points.
Nice. So I did take a class last semester that was like business communication, and we did cover these things. So I'm very pleased with
Nice.
that stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. So using your passive voice phrasing like wasing or is being is frowned upon. Make sure that you know what the voice should be in that specific paragraph or in that specific interaction, maybe with characters. So you shouldn't always be using passive voice. You shouldn't always be using active voice. Make sure that you alternate when it's necessary.
Hmm.
Next up is info dumping and backstory dumping. So, this is a really common mistake. I've even made this mistake myself, and it's really easy to fall into this trap, especially when you're world building, like I am, because I'm doing like a fantasy world.
Hmm.
It's really hard not to want to be like, and then this, and then that, and then this. But it really gets to be a lot and sometimes maybe unnecessary. So, avoiding chunks of backstory or info about the setting instead of letting the story organically unfold through
Mhm.
the character's point of view and what they're going through is just a really common mistake. And it kind of makes it a little bit more dry to read or listen to.
Right.
So, making sure that it is through experience
Mhm.
instead of just reading it. And that's actually going to go into my next point, but I'm going to give you an example. So instead of writing on Tuesday, October 5th, Rebecca noticed it was raining on her way to the coffee shop. Maybe say, on a crisp fall morning, Rebecca felt the free fall of rain pour down on her as she ran to the coffee shop across the street. So it's
So much
more,
better.
yeah, exactly. You can tell the difference. The
Mhm.
first one is very boring, very
Yeah.
like, and this happened and that happened. And Tuesday, October 5th, I don't need to know that, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
Unless it's very pertinent, unless it's like a historical nonfiction book, then yeah, for sure. Put them dates in there, or it's a memoir, put them dates in there. But for like fantasy,
Mhm.
I don't need to know that it's October 5th. I would like to know if it's a crisp fall morning. That's
Yeah.
nice. Or
That's
a hot
important.
summer day with a light breeze. Like that's also nice too.
Yeah, I really like what you said about like not giving too much like backstory too, because I find that when I read books that are like very like information heavy, where it's like,
Mhm.
I mean, like I think of like the Game of Thrones series, like they are very much known for like lots of detail. Like these books are so
Yeah.
long. But it's like they don't give everything away right in the beginning. They're not like, oh, and then the history was this happened and this happened and this happened. It's chronological. What I think
Mhm.
makes a book really enticing, even if it has a lot of interesting like details and backstory, is when like a character experiences something and then you can kind of flash back to something that happened in the past. And I think that's a way more interesting way of getting to know what happened in this world or to this character.
Yeah, you hit it like right on the head because I rather, and this is, I'm going to go into this in just a second here, but this also actually makes you a better reader too, just knowing all this because you, not that there's, okay, maybe there is bad writing out there, but I'm not going to judge people, but you're definitely going to tell the difference between an amazing book and one that's like, it's all right, you know? And it's
Mhm.
once you know that they're not using all of these crutch words or they're not info dumping like left and right or they're using passive tense throughout the whole book and you're like, I don't really care for this. You're going to really know how to read and maybe like how to tailor your reading. Maybe you do like all of this info dumping. I don't know. You could like it.
Each
But
their own.
yeah, to each their own. I'm not gonna. Nobody's judging you here. So my next topic is kind of what Lexi was talking about: is telling versus showing. So, showing a reader rather than telling them what's happening is really crucial. It shouldn't be a play-by-play announced by a sports announcer. So it shouldn't be like, and they ran across the street and they saw a pigeon and then they tripped over a crack on the sidewalk. Like we don't want that. It should be like you're being dropped into the middle of the situation and then allowing the reader just feel everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I have an example here. Instead of writing, the kids were scared as they listened to scary stories being told around the campfire, maybe say, each kid clung to their blankets as they listened to every haunting word of the scary story being told around the crackling fire.
Ooh.
It and these are just like things I randomly made up. So it's not like in any way good, but it's just you can
It's
tell the
it's
difference.
good. Yeah, I like it. That's the difference. Like having that detail and like you said, dropping them into the story. Like that's so much more interesting than just being like, oh, they did that. It's like you
Yeah.
get to live it with them. That's what I love about reading. Is like you just get like you get put into these other people's lives and into their minds, and now you're experiencing what they're experiencing. And that's
It's
so
the whole
fun.
Yeah, it's the whole point of why we read, right?
Hmm.
Because it's an escape. I mean, unless you're reading self-help books, and that's pretty
Right.
much like you're taking notes and stuff and
Yeah.
like doing all that. But
Different vibe.
no, but if you're reading romance or fantasy or just anything like that that isn't nonfiction, you want to be swept away to another person's life or another world or
Mhm.
another relationship or anything like that, and just it's an escape, and it's a way to experience without having to leave the comfort of your home, or like,
Right.
it's crazy the way that reading can transport you into another life or another world, and that's the
Mhm.
whole point of it. So make sure
Yeah.
you are showing and not telling.
Yes, exactly. I love it.
So I'm going to wrap this episode with a quick little overview of your do's and don'ts. So show show it, don't tell it. Avoid crutch words. Know when to use passive and active voice properly. Avoid info dumping and backstory dumping. Um, and that's basically it. There you have it, a rundown on how to improve your writing, whether it is creative writing or professional writing, maybe academic writing, or maybe personal writing. Maybe you have that pen pal that we were talking about before.
Yeah, the European pen pal. We all
Yeah.
got one.
If you use any of these tips, you just upped your game. So I hope that
Mhm.
you learned something. Maybe it was a refresher from that English class that you took in college. I know it was a refresher for me when I started getting back into writing. So, yeah, I hope this was helpful in some way or another.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I feel like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you can apply it to so many different scenarios. And so this is really interesting. And I even just like your little examples that like give me goosebumps. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that was awesome. The writing trilogy. I'm looking forward to hearing more about how things are going with your book and what other tips you bring along the way as you experience all the things that you're going through.
Yeah, thank you. So make sure to listen to Lexi's episode for next week. We're going to shift topics, and make sure to follow us on all of our socials. So Instagram, Facebook, follow us on Spotify to make sure that you are aware of when we're releasing our next episode, which is Monday at 5:30 every week.
Yeah.
And make sure to check us on YouTube if you want to see our pretty faces.
Yeah, we have every if for those of you who mainly listen on Spotify, there is an associated YouTube video where you can see us every week. So if that's more your vibe, then it's out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Mims, and thank you to our listeners for being here, and we'll see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.
Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.